The second stage in the Winter Woods vest is to knit the front. This is the vest we're knitting, and as a quick reminder, this is the yarn and gauge in use. In the last video, we knitted the back, including the back neck ribbing, which is not a very common way to do it, but there's a good reason for doing it this time. The front is knitted in exactly the same manner as the back, up to the point where we need to divide the neckline and begin creating the V. So follow the first video up to this point. We're up to here in my sketch, and just as for the back, bind off 6 stitches on the right, knit across, bind off 6 stitches on the left. And in addition to those, bind off the 4 center stitches. I recommend using a different yarn than the main yarn for binding off those center stitches. The neckline will be neater if it's a lighter weight, stronger yarn. So use any worsted weight yarn you have that blends nicely color-wise. And don't worry too much about perfection. It's going to be hidden. At this point, put all of the needles on the side away from the carriage. Mine is now on the left, into hold. So probably that will be your right hand needles going into the hold position. Make sure you set the carriage so that it respects that hold position. From here to the top, we will work the left side separately from the right side as we continue to shape the armhole just as we did for the back, and also shape the V-neck. Just as on the back, every other row will do a full fashion decrease at the armhole edge, and we will do that 8 times, while at the same time decreasing the V at the neck edge. I strongly recommend full fashion decreases, but here I'm doing them in 2 stages, moving the second stitch from the edge inwards, 1 needle space first, then moving the edge stitch in 1 needle space. The effect is the same, and I was having a little trouble with stitches getting split, so I changed to that method. Now we're going to work up this left side of the front neckline, and out of sight where you cannot see it, the right hand side is waiting its turn. Continue decreasing on the armhole side every other row, but on the neck edge side every 4th row. We'll be working 12 decreases altogether at the neck edge, and the same 8 that we've mentioned several times and that we did on the back on the armhole edge. So obviously we'll be done with our armhole decreases, and we will continue with our neckline decreases every 4 rows. Once 12 of them have been made, we stop decreasing and we knit the last few rows without further decreases. Remember to move your weights up fairly often. Pull down on the fabric if need be. You also may find that you need to decrease your weight a little bit from the amount that you were using, because the amount of knitting on the machine is getting less and less, and we don't want to distort it. We also need to think about the stripes. This is the first side of the neckline. So for it, I'm just letting the yarn run, and we'll see what kind of a pattern develops. Then for the second side of the neckline, we'll make a big effort so that the left and right end up the same. By the time row 101 is completed, the carriage should be on the left, and there should be 14 stitches still in work. Bind off 5 of them with the working yarn, knit 2 rows, the counter should read 103, bind off 5 more, knit 2 rows, and bind off the remaining 4, just as for the back. So the left shoulder of the front is done. It's time to do the right shoulder, and we want them to look the same like these do. So turn back the row counter to 53 and repeat everything that we just did as a mirror image for the right shoulder. Move the carriage to the right before beginning. But before you start knitting madly, as I just was, do this. In order to get a good matching color pattern up the left and right sides of the front, we need to take note of where we were in the color repeat knitting the first side. In this case, blue was just transitioning into green when we started the V. So find that same spot in another ball of yarn probably by pulling out a good bit and start at that point, even though it means you will be leaving some unused yarn from the previous ball. You'll find another use for that yarn later, and it's well worth pulling some out of the skein to get a matching left to right effect. This is us knitting the second side of the vest front real quick because it's gotten so easy. We have matching sides of the V and shoulders. Let's take a well-earned break, and next time we visit, we can add trim to the armholes and to the neckline.